Hello there, hello there, hello there, and welcome to episode 37 of the podcast, Jump Into Success. Alrighty, let's get stuck right in. Alrighty, I hope you are enjoying the summer so far. It's been pretty spectacular, to be honest with you. A lot of sunshine. The lawn in my garden is looking pretty parched, and we've really been enjoying the sunshine and sitting in the garden in the afternoon. You don't need to go abroad. It's so sunny here. It's pretty spectacular. Now, what have we got for you today? We've got a fantastic interview with none other than Mr. Nick Sellers, executive coach, actually a graduate of UKCPD, and he's been building his practice very, very successfully. And he's also a podcaster, so a very, very interesting story to tell with a personal backstory as well. I think you're really going to enjoy this. So let me introduce you to the recording with Nick Sellers. So, Nick, lovely to have you with me today. And as I said before we started recording, this is part of a series of interviews we're doing with people who are either well-known in the coaching NLP development space and or are graduates of the college. And you fall into at least two of those categories, I'm thinking. So that's why we're really pleased to have you. So I'm going to keep my glasses on so I can actually see the questions we've got here for you. So let's get started with a bit of background and the journey so far. So you've earned your ILM Level 7 diploma in coaching and mentoring in 23. And I guess the question that we were wondering, it's about motivation. So what kind of encouraged you to think, yeah, I want that credential and these are the guys I'm going to go do it with? Because it's quite a big investment, time, money, and quite frankly, stress when you're doing a Level 7 ILM class.
So for me, I wanted to have a credential that I felt was focused on what I intended to do and was well enough recognized in the market. You know, there's no legislation around whether you can call yourself a coach or not. And so I wanted to have something that was credible. And I think the ILM Level 7 diploma gave me that. And, you know, when I talk to clients and employers, actually, because some of the folks I'm coaching now are employees of larger companies, right, the Level 7 diploma has actually given me that credibility. Like I've been through the process and got the reward at the end of it.
Groovy. And I guess the other question that we're sort of asking as many people as it seems appropriate, and in your case, I think it is, given there are lots of people organizations who provide that qualification, at the risk of sounding like, say, we're marvelous, what was, I'm guessing you spoke to other providers. What helped you or enabled you to make the choice and go, yeah, UKCPD is the one for us?
There were a couple of things. Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of providers out there. I was looking for something that would be totally studyable online. Right. So it didn't require me to go into a classroom once a quarter or something like that. And then after that, it really was a matter of your credentials, like as in what reviews of people left. And I guess then finally it kind of came down to the cost. And I think I might have landed on you just at the moment that you had a small discount available. And that moved me across the finish line.
Well, good to know those.
But above the price, it was actually some of the reviews that people had left about UKCPD that made me think this is a credible venue for me, and this is a good bunch of folks to work with.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Great. Coolio. So before launching your practice, you did the qualification, and then you decided, right, I'm going to go into practice. You had a corporate career. What aspects of that experience do you think serves you best putting it into starting your own business and then, of course, coaching and mentoring clients?
Good, yes. I had an executive coach myself for about 3 years, 20 years ago. And I found after I'd had that experience, which was truly transformational for me, that I started to coach and mentor people informally in the business. So these were colleagues, clients, even some of our senior executives would book some time with me when I was at head office, just want to have a coffee with you, bounce a couple of ideas off. And for that reason, I was kind of coaching folks at several levels, but it was in a helpful kind of way. When I had the opportunity to move over into self-employment effectively, run my own business, I understood the principles of how business works from corporate life. It didn't prepare me for all of the fact that everything ends at my door.
Yeah.
I used to wander down the corridor to accounting when I needed a finance question answered. I used to knock on the door of legal when somebody gave me a contract to review. Nowadays, everything just heads towards me and I'm the final arbiter. So I would say if you're looking for any tips for any budding coaches, it's be prepared for the fact that what got you to where you are now may actually need to be augmented with other learning and skills as you go forward.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that most self-employed people suddenly realize, and actually quite quickly.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, it's just me. There is no accounting or other departments. Yeah, that was certainly my experience a long time ago. We've been looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you mentioned, starting 2023, and this is the bit that stood out for us. You're calling it a business adventure, which, of course, ups and downs come along. What do you think, apart from maybe the answer is what you've already said, was the biggest challenge that you had in setting up and starting on that adventure? And maybe how did you kind of get around and address that challenge?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest changes was moving from having a regular paycheck, 15th of every month, the money goes in your account, to being a bit of a roller coaster. The money goes up and goes down, depending on how busy you are. The workload goes up and goes down. So it has been an adventure. And honestly, if I was reflecting on the pros and cons, the pros definitely outweigh the cons, big style. I get to work with such a vast range of people now. I'm not governed by corporate policy anymore, or anything like that. I've been able to step away from that and actually really just genuinely enjoy the blend of what I do and how I go about doing it. And I can experiment without having to run it past the senior guys first.
You are the senior guy.
I am the senior guy now. That's right. Yeah. I'm troubleshooting.
That's right. Also on LinkedIn, you mentioned about helping leaders discover their values, their goals, and of course the blockers. And this is a question that often comes up with students, actually. How do you structure that initial phase to ensure phase of your coaching process? I guess the relationship start with all of that is involved as well, but so that they're very clear about A, what it is they're doing, and B, where it is they're going. Kind of clarity thing that we might say from, I don't know, Brian Tracy or something like that.
So it's a good question. It's really amazing to me how many people, even that are senior in businesses, either founders or senior managers, are actually just not really very clear about what they want. They're kind of in the process, they're in the hamster wheel, as it were, and they're just going round and round in circles. And so I generally start now by asking them, if they were to fast forward 1 year, what would success look like to them? And for some of them, I ask them to answer that in the present tense, not the future. So when they get to that point 1 year from now, is it feeling healthier? Is it being richer? Is it feeling like they've achieved a purpose in life? What is it they really want? And that gives them something to kind of anchor themselves. And then really after that, we kind of work out how they're going to get there.
Yeah. I think that's a fair comment. In fact, when it comes up a lot, often people, especially founders or people who are like entrepreneurial spirit minded, and they start something because they want to do something. And actually, to begin with, the goal is the doing, but the destination isn't very, very clear as to the fundamentals of the why of it, if you will, and for what, and then what, and then what. It almost doesn't get to the end of the month. It's always like, I'm doing this because I love it.
Yeah.
But that clarity isn't really there, which of course is why we get into trouble.
When you're a practitioner and you work in the business, you're actually doing the thing that you've trained for, you've got lots of experience at. It's really difficult to actually sort of move to one side and actually start to work on the business. thinking about what is it I want the business to look like in a year's time? What do I want to have in a year's time? Do I want to have something that's a saleable asset, or do I want to have a healthy work and life balance? Do I want to lose a couple of kilos or more? What is it I'm looking for from this? Do I want to have purpose in the workplace and better relationships at home? I'm an executive coach, but the number of times that relationships with family, spouses come into the conversation, I've helped a number of my senior clients to fix relationships at home, not because I'm a life coach or because I'm a relationship coach, but simply because the business became so all consuming that they weren't spending time with their other half, they weren't spending time with the kids. And all we did was actually start to say, how do you carve out a bit of time for these things that are going to be with you well beyond work?
Yeah, it's often that simple. It's home. That's what it is. Yeah. Well, that's great that you're able to do that. So as an executive coach, mentor, strategist, how do you integrate all of the things that you've learned, on the training program, but also with your corporate organizational background? How does that all sort of come into one thing when you sit in front of a client and go, how can I help you today? Or what is it you want to work on today?
Yeah. Perspective taking, I think, is
Right.
a key way that I help other people to take a look at things. I've always been quite a perspective taker. I was never somebody who was so driven that I was aiming for my goals the whole time. I was always looking for what would be the best outcome be of a situation. I used to run projects across international engagements. So as a strategist, it wasn't just kind of looking at something here locally in the town. I mean, I was looking at things that affected people across different continents, different cultures, and so forth. And I was always looking for what's going to be the right outcome that's going to work best for everybody. So perspective taking was something I kind of learned over a long period. I bring that into the coaching as well, and questions like, have you ever talked to the other person?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried changing your seat and going round to the other side of the table and sitting next to them while they're working on this? Those kinds of things I find are really powerful. Many people don't take account of how other people might be viewing the same situation. So it's a bit like the Himalayas. You look at the Himalayas from one side and they look maybe climbable, but you look from the other side and you just see the impossible face of, the north face of Everest, so to speak, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
And so asking people just to shift their position and actually take a look through other people's eyes, I feel is very powerful.
Yeah, you're right about the hill thing or mountains. I remember once we went hill walking, I think it was in Scotland, and I thought, I can get up there, that's easy. But you go over that little bit, there's all this next bit. It just went on forever, thinking, maybe we should go back. It's getting late.
Yeah, but I think kind of coupled with that, Tony, you've got the whole thing about journaling and so forth, which is quite a reflective exercise. Sometimes when you're in the middle of climbing up the hill and you think you're just about to reach the summit and then you realize it was a false summit, just stopping and turning around 180 degrees, you might feel disheartened at the thought you've still got to go further. But if you stop and take account of how far you've come, you can see the car down in the distance there and it's just a dot. You think, actually, I've climbed a long way already. It's worth going on.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I'm a great one for encouraging, both college members and students to journal, because it is so easy to discount the journey so far. And last week, and I think the week before as well, we were encouraging people, right, we're in June, we're halfway through the year. Take a moment, look back at what you've done. In fact, we did it for the college, and we were amazed what the mileage we've covered so far. But if you don't stop and think about it, you think, we haven't really done very much. But actually, take that moment.
Very powerful.
Now, we mentioned this before we even started, so we'll revisit it. Your podcast, Scaling New Heights, how does this tie into what you're doing as a coach and as a kind of a developmental tool, maybe for yourself, but also for others? Tell us all about that, because I know you've said you're in your 30s already episodes. I mean, that's pretty fast, because I remember when you started, it doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah, it doesn't, does it? Yeah, you're right. I was a guest on a couple of podcasts and really enjoyed getting into the conversations that take place. And then I thought, I wonder if I could use this. I actually have a marketing sort of background as well. So, I know that when you're marketing your business, you put out free content. And I realized that not everybody watches video, not everybody reads articles. And
Yeah.
so I actually was listening to a podcast one day, and this was an interview with somebody who's like a mega podcaster, millions of followers. And they said two things that struck with me. One was 99% of podcasts don't reach episode 20 before they're abandoned. And so that meant if you reach episode 20, you're in the top 1%. And that appealed to me. It would be a milestone that was worth aiming for. The
Yeah.
second thing was, it struck me, another comment that was made was this: a listener had said, I take you to bed with me at night. And
That's
I realized that, I know it's not seedy, I promise you. Yeah. But I realized that people listen to podcasts while they're driving, while they're washing the car, while they're, winding down for the night, while they're cooking a meal. And so mine is not a video podcast. I may do more video as I go forward, but for now, the audio podcast is for me the kind of like listen to anywhere kind of thing. And it's brought me a lot of joy. I enjoyed it. I'm trying to get now into the routine of always having like 5 or 6 episodes ahead, which is kind of the basic recommendation. I'm working on that, but it's going well. I've had some brilliant conversations with other coaches, and I've actually had a couple of inspirational episodes with people who've achieved big things, not coaches, but people who in business or in life
nice.
have just done some amazing things.
Oh,
And
what would you say was the one key learning from doing it? Because we started doing it for a similar kind of reason. I'm thinking here. I
mhm,
was I listened to loads of them, and then somebody said you should do it. I went,
yeah,
really? And I thought that's another thing to do. But once I started doing it, I actually quite enjoy it, and I've had some really great conversations. I mean, really great conversations. And
yeah.
sometimes you think you know somebody, you get them on a podcast, you're thinking, I never knew that.
I think that touches on a really important point. I have coaching conversations with clients one to one. It's amazing how often the topics repeat.
Yeah,
So, the fact that somebody's up to their neck in the business and therefore relationships at home are suffering is not just one person. That pops up regularly. So, how we manage work-life balance is a topic that I can put out in a podcast, and hopefully that helps people that listen to rethink how they're approaching work and life in relationships. Other topics keep repeating. So, two things come from that. One is I'm hoping I'm helping people kind of free of charge. It's building my profile as a coach, I hope,
yeah,
for sure. But I think the other thing is it makes me think about what I'm actually going to say in the podcast. What is it that's important to draw from those coaching topics that pop up? And how would I frame things? What would I cover in an episode? So there's a lot of learning, I think, for me as the podcaster as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, and you're saying you do one a week.
I'm doing one a week, yeah, every Monday morning, 7 a.m. Scaling new heights, leadership at the next level. There's a plug.
That's great. We'll put a link in the notes. We started off doing it every week, but I found it was just too much. I don't have the time. So good luck to you. I'm amazed that you can do it. We'll tend to be month-ish now. Well, I'll ask this question. What key themes or guest dialogues do you believe have had the largest impact on your listeners so far?
I think it will be around how I, as an individual, must adopt, embrace change. I'm thinking about the clients. Again, folks come into coaching if they've never had a coach and they're not sure what to expect. Real and think maybe that coaching is about how other people are going to need to change around them, but
Yeah.
actually coaching is around how the individual changes. And so, how do they manage their time better? Mindset, another one. Limiting beliefs, thinking about those NLP topics. Really coaching is all about the individual starting to view things differently, and those are the topics that I think kind of embrace. Um, Not embrace, that's not the right word. Those are the topics that really grab people's attention, that it's not
Yeah.
about changing everybody around you, it's about you changing, and then you can figure out whether others need to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that in mind, on a LinkedIn post that you put out, you spoke about slowing down and focusing on what matters most.
Yeah.
How do you help your clients identify and shift from what might seem urgent, the urgent quadrant in that thing, or got to be done, to what's actually important?
Mhm. One of the areas we start with is fires. If they take a look at how often they're having to put out fires,
Mm,
metaphorically, very often we have fires in life because we've got something that's now urgent and important. Yeah. And that's usually something that was already important that actually we didn't deal with before it became urgent. So you think about big things in life, your health. If you ignore your health for enough years, it will get to the point where actually one day there's a wake up call, and it could be severe. It could be a heart attack or something else that's life changing. Well, if we actually only paid attention to our health when we could before it became urgent, then we can do a better job of managing the aging process and stuff, I guess. But to your point, as leaders in business, we can't do everything. And so we have to also take account of what have I got on my to-do list that somebody else could do. And that's a candidate for delegation, outsourcing to somebody else. The other quarter of that diagram is the stuff that's just noise, the stuff that fills your
yeah,
inbox.
yeah,
People sort of shouting out for your attention. Do you really need to do that? I have loads of rules on Outlook now that when certain things pop into my inbox, they just get skimmed into another folder so that they're not looking for my attention. I occasionally go in and just clear it, have a
yeah,
quick look and see if anything unfortunately got in there that it shouldn't have done.
yeah. Often things can seem important, but when you start spending time on it, you realize, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
It's just a waste of my time.
And you can't do everything. You can't do
No,
everything.
no, you
And as
can't.
you do a ton of work, UKCPD, you've got lots of initiatives running, a lot of stuff going on. And I applaud everything that you do. It's been more than just a college experience studying with you guys. It's actually been you've created a community. You've created much more than just a place where people can learn. It's a place where people can engage and go further, with everything else, the growth
Yeah.
club and everything else.
It's nice of you to mention that, because that was the ultimate goal, and I still think we've got more to do, but we're getting there. And I mentioned before about stopping because it was June, right? What have we managed so far this year? I'm thinking, wow, we really have ticked a lot of those boxes that we set ourselves as kind of markers on the journey.
Hmm.
Uh, let's ask for this question then. As a facilitator, moderator, speaker, podcaster, what are your most effective strategies for creating an engaging, outcome-focused group environment? Maybe should I answer that question myself.
Asking questions that make people think. I think it's not about, as a moderator or a facilitator, I don't come with my own ideas. I tap into what people start expressing, but then ask them questions that draw them further and further into the topic or further and further away from their starting point, and ask them, I guess we'd call them powerful questions in coaching, wouldn't we?
Yeah, yeah,
Those questions that just draw them further and further into thinking about the things like why and what
yeah,
and so forth. So, and making sure, if it's a group environment, making sure that the noisy ones, the folks that are comfortable thinking out loud, don't just crowd out the ones who are more reflective and just
yeah,
need a bit of time to process before they vocalize something. So I always make sure. I used to facilitate client meetings when we had groups of clients. We'd maybe have 14 clients in a room, all different companies, tech companies, banks, all sorts of things, and we'd facilitate those conversations, and it was amazing how much similarity there was in the needs of different companies, but we always needed to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to contribute to the conversation. Otherwise, it was just a day out of the office.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're probably right. Yeah, on the questions thing, it's students will often ask that sort of question. How do you get ready and how do you know what to ask? And I thought, well, get ready. I'm present for my client, but I don't know what question to ask until they start talking. And it's, it's all about them. It's not about my pre-designed agenda for the coaching session. The coaching is about them, not about what I might be clever enough to ask or say or do.
Yeah. There were two questions. A recent coaching session I had with somebody who's a business founder, and he was looking for growth in his business. And there were two things. One, he was considering offering free training to customers, to clients. And I just simply asked him the question, why does it need to be free? And it really hit him, because I think he just thought that this was going to be a necessity, and then realized that as a result of that actually he had options available. And the other question I asked him was, why does it all have to be on you?
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, part 4, growth, future vision. So reflecting on the first couple of years of working for yourself, and I think you may have mentioned some of this already, but what stands out as the big surprise of working as an independent organization, as you kind of are?
The big surprise as working as an independent is that there aren't more people who want a coach. I think everybody needs a coach, but the people I want to work with are the ones who want a coach, and they're in pretty short supply, relatively speaking. So there's always capacity to do more, to take on more clients, but finding the people that really, really want a coach, and they're the ones that really, I guess, get me excited. And it's not about money, Tony. It's about people who really want to change something, that really want to move the needle. So the folks that just come along and pay for a few sessions and then go away, and you never really feel sure about what they've taken away from it, are one type of client. But the ones who really wire in, the ones who keep pushing me as a coach to dig deeper and to take them further, and they're the ones that do all the work. I'm not telling them anything. I'm not a business advisor. I'm just a coach.
Yeah.
They're the ones
I hear you. Yeah, and
they're
that is
the ones that really, really want to do more, get more, unlock more potential. They're the ones.
They're the ones who turn into long-term clients, where you don't see them for a while, then you don't see them for a year maybe, and then you see them again, and you know that they've, in the background, they've been working away whatever strategy came out of those previous sessions. I love that, because that to me that's the beauty of the coaching process.
Absolutely.
So looking ahead, what are the top 3 priorities for continuing to scale your coaching and mentoring business, but also your podcast over the next 12 to 2 years?
Yeah. My business is a nice point. Actually, can I just wind back from there? My life is at a nice point. I'm not retired, but I don't have the need to take on the responsibilities that I once had. So I'm looking for balance across things. I don't want to work with more than 10 clients at a time. So I've got a kind of a limit there, that I only have 10 clients running at any one time. There are other things in life that I'm pursuing. So I'm a woodworker, so I like to work at the workbench.
Right.
I like to mess about with podcasts. That's a new kind of line of business that I'm about to launch, where I'll help other coaches to get their podcast off the ground, that kind of stuff. So I'm looking for a kind of balance across 3 or 4 things. And that for me is how life looks nice now. It's not about just being known as a coach. It's actually about a few things. So I don't know whether I've really answered your question the way you expected.
I think you kind of have. I think I'm not retired, but I can do a bit of what I want. And I'm interested in this, and I'm helping other people. That's what I'm really into. I think that is the right answer, because that is the answer that we all, I think, secretly aspire to, we're not able to quit our 9 to 5 rabbit wheel job, and we want to get out there and do something that means something here as well as, you know.
Yeah. It's good. It's a nice place to be. It's not that I don't have any fire in my belly. The direction in which that fire is being directed has changed.
Yeah. A different path on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. New chapter.
So based on the experience of the last couple of years, what essential skills or mindsets would you suggest an aspiring coach might want to prioritize or even develop? I think that might be the...
I think a starting point, a good starting point is tenacity. Be prepared to stick with things, okay? Because you're not going to be an overnight success. You're not going to be an instant hit. And if you are, it might be that it comes quickly and goes away quickly too. So be tenacious about going in a direction, the direction for you. Have that, we talk about growth mindset. I think be prepared to continue to learn. You're going to learn a lot just from working for yourself, taking a step away out of corporate employment into self-employment. You'll learn a lot, but embrace that. I've learned a lot about building websites and marketing myself, whereas before I actually just outsourced all of that to companies and to others. Things have changed quite a lot for me, but I've loved the learning of that. I've loved learning how to coach people. I've loved learning through the coaching experience. And I would say anybody going into coaching, you're not going to come out with the certificate and be the finished article. The certificate is the thing that allows you to go do it by yourself, I might say. It's a bit like learning to drive a car. You pass your driving test, but the moment you sit in that car by yourself without somebody next to you, that's when you really start learning.
That's exactly right. So based on what you've said, what sort of CPD or ongoing learning are you sort of engaged in, or would you recommend, or thought leaders that you might recommend people look up their work or their books, their podcast? Anybody stand out?
I don't know that anybody stands out. I enjoy Robert Dilts. So I've not actually gone down the NLP route in a formal way, as in getting a certificate. But I do embrace NLP just through the reading I've done and through some of the stuff that I've observed and worked into the coaching. I may well pursue, a kind of a master practitioner thing over time or something like that, because I do think it's very, very useful. I also, on CPD, I was really pleased that you recently announced the kind of a CPD. There's a lot of effort gone into CPD, and I recognize that. I'll be there because I'm aiming for about 25 hours of CPD every year now going forward. I've been a bit, flexible over the last couple of years. I've joined in with things. I've learned quite a lot as I've gone, but I actually want to formalize that kind of continuing professional development now, because I think that's important.
It is, and you're right. In fact, I think you were one of the people who said, how are we going to formalize this and record it all? And we'd been working, and I was thinking, well, I can't say it right now because it's going to take a while to finish it. But once we got the accreditation and then the digital credentials, so everything is recorded, we're really, really pleased, and we're rolling that out big time going forward. So there's going to be a lot of new things linked to that. Alrighty, so this is the last scheduled question other than the ones that we ask everybody. You've stepped into this new territory with podcasting, social media. What has surprised you most about being on camera or hearing your voice back on a podcast?
That's a really good question, that one. I hated it at the start. I absolutely hated it. Now I don't mind. I'm definitely not somebody that looks for the limelight. I'm not looking, I don't want to grab the microphone and be on stage. But now I'm comfortable with doing what I do, and I enjoy the whole process of thinking about what needs to be talked about, recording it, editing it, making it ready to go live. I'm not aiming for studio quality. I'm aiming for authentic. But absolutely have loved just the hours I've spent weekly on preparing the podcast, as well as other things. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So that, again, is just part of the joy. One of the questions I regularly ask clients is, what feeds your soul? And
Yeah.
it's a really important one. 7 out of 10 people have never given it any thought. Can you imagine? 70% of people just plod from day to day, week to week, without really thinking what fulfills them.
Yeah. And then they wonder
But when they have answered that question, it turns out to be something that really starts to turn into an acknowledged source of joy. And podcasting for me is up there with it, and as well as LinkedIn and other things. I just enjoy what I do, Tony.
Yeah. Great. All right. So the question that we ask pretty much everybody: favorite personal, professional development book?
Ooh, gosh, there are so many. I'll tell you the one that I've recently read, which has kind of stuck with me, is Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think it is. I've become much more conscious of how routines are so important to us in fixing what needs to be fixed in us. We develop bad habits. We have bad routines, ones that are unhealthy or holding us back. Atomic Habits was a great read for me recently, because actually he breaks that down into even micro habits that actually help us get going. So I want to improve my health. You've got to tie your running shoelaces first.
Yeah. And that was actually, you say that because that's been one of the biggest learnings for me personally. Working too many hours, eating often the wrong things, and maybe one glass of wine too many from time to time. Looking after my parents because they were so unwell, and then they passed away, and then moving to where we have here, it's almost been like this is what you always wanted to do: live in the countryside and walking, losing weight. And I have lost some weight.
Yeah,
the doctor tells me I need to lose a little bit more, but I've surprised myself how much I've enjoyed it. You think, exercise is such a chore. Ugh. But actually walking up the hills, down to the coast, it's been brilliant. Get really back into nature and the birds, and I sound like I'm...
I think that point's really well made. New Year's resolutions are a killer. Midnight, 31st of December, we sit...
Wrong time to set a goal.
Absolutely wrong. But the fact is that, just as I mentioned, tying the running shoelaces, that's where we need to start. We might well want to lose weight, get healthier, earn more money, whatever it is, but it starts with a small step that becomes a permanent small step, and then it grows and it grows and it grows. So we've got to be more deliberate about where we want to be, and not just do it on the back of a fag packet on the 31st of December.
Absolutely right. It's that coaching question. What's the first step? Yeah. Well, Nick, this has been brilliant. I really appreciate you giving up your time. We'll put a link to your website, your LinkedIn profile, and I'll try and find the link to your podcast as well. We'll put that in there as well.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Great. And that way people will be able to look you up. So we wish you every success, and perhaps we'll have you back in the future to see how it's all gone. Maybe when you're up to episode 100.
Oh, that would be a milestone. Yes, let's do that.
All righty. You take care of yourself. Speak again soon. Bye now.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Tony.